Unfortunately, in our profession, there's sometimes a broad brush that's painted. And when one incident happens, it seems to be the story for every police agency in the United States, and that's not always the case.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to!
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Welcome to the Black and Blue Podcast. My name is Dale. Welcome to the show. Hey, I do this show mostly from the inside of my studio out here in California. But today, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm coming to you today from an undisclosed location in LA County with my next guest. So be sure to check this out. Again, my name is Dale, Black and Blue Podcast. Make sure you check us out on all my social media pages at Black and Blue US. We're doing a little something different here today. Got a little different look, but I hope you like it. So check out my next guest today. He is the Chief of Police of the Southgate Police Department in Southgate, California. Everybody, please welcome to the show, Chief Darren Arakawa. How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right, good to see you. Thank you for inviting us into your home.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. So I said you are the Chief of Police in a city called Southgate. Tell everybody where that is, first of all, because not everybody knows.
Yeah, so Southgate is located in southeast Los Angeles. We're roughly 7.5 square miles. We're nestled in between the city of LA. We border Linwood, Downey, Bell Gardens. So we're considered the southeast cities of Los Angeles. So it's a very accessible city to downtown LA, real close, but Southern California.
All right. And how long have you been with Southgate?
Roughly 30 years now. It was my first department. I started there, got hired on early as a reserve officer in November of '91. And 6 months later became a full-time police officer and never looked back.
Okay, all right. And you're the chief there now. How long have you been chief?
I took over the chief's position in August of 2021 and was appointed as a full-time chief in October of this year, or October 2021.
So you took over for the previous chief, and now you're in your tenure here. How do you like being chief now?
It's definitely a change in leadership at the command level. There's leadership, but when you take over as a chief, there are responsibilities that everything rests on your shoulders now. You accept responsibility for the good and the bad, but I felt that this position did change my view on how leadership really looks. There's a lot to be taken in consideration, but the challenges are worth taking on. The position is just there's so much going on, but there's so much thinking that goes into decision making, and I enjoy it. I really do. I think that it's next level organizational thinking, and it's a great opportunity because not everybody in this profession is afforded this opportunity.
Absolutely.
So to work my way up in the organization and to get here, there's no failing option for me. It's going to be a great challenge, but there's also going to be some things that I think are going to be beneficial to the organization. My goal is to leave the organization better than when I got there, and that's my intention.
Yeah, it sounds like you're off to a good start. So yeah, wish you lots of luck on there.
Thank you.
Tell everybody about the department. How large is it? How large is the city? What's kind of the demographics of each?
Absolutely. So Southgate is we're roughly 7.5 square miles. Population's roughly 96 to 100,000 population, primarily Hispanic community, working class community. Over the years, there's been so much development and so much has come to the city. And our organization in itself is roughly about 150 between the sworn personnel and the civilian staff. And we're budgeted for 85 police officers.
Okay. And how is that? You said you're budgeted for 85. How's that actually working out now on the street? Because I know times are tougher for all of our agencies right now.
Absolutely. We look at, we're always short, if you will. Through attrition, through retirements, you're always trying to hire. So we're down a number of bodies, but the nice thing is that there's plenty of candidates out there. I know that there's rhetoric about not wanting to be in this profession for various reasons, but I don't believe there's a shortage of people wanting to enter this profession. It's a very noble profession, and everybody out there that seeks to be a police officer, we see them go through the channels and the testing process. So there's plenty of candidates that are out there. It's just finding the right candidates to fit your organization.
All right. And speaking about candidates and people wanting to be police officers, had you always wanted to be a police officer?
Ironically not. I'll tell you an interesting story how I actually became a police officer. So out of high school, I began working in Southgate at a trucking company, which is just on the east side of the city. And at the time, there was a police officer that used to come into the shop all the time. He was in commercial enforcement police officer, so I used to see him quite frequently. And he struck up a friendship with me, and he had kids the same age as me, and he used to talk to me about the job. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that it was interesting as every conversation went through. He would tell me about the things that went on. Now, keep in mind, he was a police officer that started in the 70s and 80s, right. So he had some stories that would just pique my interest. So I never considered a career in law enforcement until I started grabbing onto the stories, and he inspired me to at least give it a shot. Which is why I took the route of being a reserve officer, because at the time our department had a reserve officer program, so that afforded us the opportunity to maintain the profession that you're in and become a part-time police officer, experience the job, and if it's something that I felt that was right for me in the organization, later on down the line it was right for my career and myself, then I'd take the leap and become a full-time police officer, and that's exactly what I did. It didn't take very long. It was about 6 months since I became a reserve officer, and I was offered a job right away. But I always like to tell that story because it really does underscore the importance of the connections that a police officer and the contact that you have with police officers in the field. As a young individual, you look up to police officers, at least I did. And I always thought that what they say mattered, and I listened to them, and you just never know what will come out of that contact. And here I am today. I mean, I credit that man for putting me in the position that where I'm at now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what did the family feel about that at the time?
Well, my brother was headed to the military at the time. It was my brother and I, and I was an adult then, and I just one day told Mom, "This is what I'm doing, Mom," and she's like, "Okay, you gotta make decisions for yourself." So it was all positive, very encouraging from the family. There's never been a time where somebody in the family said, "Don't do it because of the dangers." In fact, that's what you want to do. You want to run to the danger. If you want to be a police officer, that's one of your mind of thinking is that this is part of the job. Let's go in there. But it never crossed my mind that dangers would keep me from engaging in this profession.
Mm-hmm. And you told me a little story about your childhood, about your family life off camera there. You mind sharing that?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, my brother and I, my mom raised us in East Los Angeles area. We grew up in El Sereno, and at a young age, my brother was 1 year older than I, and at the age of, I think I was 8 years old. My brother was 9. My father was the victim of a homicide. He was killed in Los Angeles, and to this date, it's an unsolved murder. And so years down the line, my brother and I became law enforcement officers, and just people ask, well, did you become a police officer because of the incident that happened with your father? And it's quite the opposite. I think it was more happenstance and just a chance encounter that we both became police officers. Wasn't planned. By the time we became working professionals, that incident happened, so many years ago that it was just a distant memory. But I always like to reflect on that and think, wow, what would have happened if our father was still around? Would we still be in this profession? So no telling. But I always thought that was kind of a story to tell. Because I do look at that and I have a profound respect for what my mom did as a single mom, bringing up 2 kids. And back then and back in the late '70s, things weren't as easy as you would think they'd be. So I have this profound respect for my mother, especially now being a parent.
Right.
You understand the struggles of parent, but I'll always remember that that upbringing and the encouragement that my mom always had for my brother and I. So yeah, it's kind of a unique position for us.
Now, since you got into law enforcement, have you ever tried to keep tabs on how that case is going, or?
So it was actually 40 years after my father had passed away. I was sent to training in Boston, and while I was in Boston, it was a Senior Management Institute for Police. And in 2016, I was among 85 command level officers from across the United States. And I happened to sit next to a civilian manager that worked for LAPD records and identification. And, we're out there for 3 weeks, staying on campus at Boston University. And, during the breaks, you get to talk to your colleagues and share stories. And I asked her what she did at LAPD, and she described what she did. And I just kind of threw the story out about what happened to my father. I said, this is what happened to my father. And, is there any way you can pull up a report? So she said, well, let me get the information and let me see if I can pull it up. So I gave her the information, and 2 days later, I totally forgot I even had that conversation with her, and she came back to me and says, hey, I found the reports. It was actually on microfiche. So for those of you viewers out there, if you don't know what microfiche is, look it up. It's just an old way of saying scanning. It was a scanned document, and she was able to pull out the documents and show me the homicide report. And it was kind of interesting because I read it 40 years after the incident happened. Now, keep in mind, when I was young, I remember the day my mom told me that my father passed away. She had actually told us that my dad was involved in a car accident. It wasn't until years later that my grandfather told us what really happened. But I understand why my mom would tell me that, because how can you tell little kids the manner in which your father was killed? So I absolutely understand it. But to get the reports 40 years later, I shared it with my brother at the time, and it was just kind of interesting. It still is unsolved, but it struck a particular chord with homicide investigators back in the day, because they suspect the killer was involved in a murder of a high-profile business owner back then. Yet there were no leads or no follow-up. But I was just satisfied to read the report. I never thought that the case should be reopened and whatnot. Life moves on, and I was just actually satisfied to see reports. I was a captain at the time when I read the report. So, but to get that, it was very rewarding.
Yeah. And if some new evidence comes to light, I'm sure they'll open it back up. But till then.
Yeah, I let things rest where they are, and I understand everyone's busy and cases are piling up, and if you look at the approximate age of the suspect on the crime reports, I would suspect he's probably in his 80s or 90s, if not even dead.
Right.
So I don't want to waste resources to investigate something that
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. And you talked about a brother. What can you tell us a little bit about your brother too?
Yeah, absolutely. My brother was 1 year older than me. Great man. In fact, he was out of high school. He was deciding on where he was going to go in life, and ended up joining the Marine Reserves. And my mom was pushing him. You got to find a career in life, or you got to do something. So he ended up going to the service, and shortly thereafter, the conflict in the Middle East occurred. So my brother was sent off to the Middle East in support of Operation Desert Storm, and that was a scary time for us, for the family, because it was very unsettling. It was, everyone was watching what was going on the news, and but he served his country, and when he came back, he ended up he saw that I was on the job already, and said, "Hey, I think I want to be a police officer as well." So he actually worked for the Bureau of Prisons. So he worked at they sent him to Glencoe, Georgia for training. Came back, and I believe he worked at Roybal Building down in downtown LA, but. He wasn't satisfied with what he was doing, and he wanted to be a sworn peace officer. And at the time, I had been on the job a couple years, and he started applying with agencies and was hired by the LA County Sheriff's Department in mid 1995. Went to the academy, and he graduated at the end of '95. And at the time, I was on the job a couple years already, so I was. I'm the younger brother, but I'm telling the older brother, these are the things to expect.
Right.
Of course, we were two different organizations, and his career path was a little bit different than mine. I mean, I went straight onto patrol while he did some custody time and had to work his way up that way. But yeah, he did his time at the sheriff's department. Did really well for himself.
All right, all right. And then something happened to him a little bit later on in life. Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my brother worked a number of assignments. Most of his career was in East Los Angeles Station. He loved that community. That's kind of where he felt comfortable. And it was December of 2020 when he got COVID. He got COVID while he was working, and fell ill, and about 3 weeks later he was admitted to the hospital, and he was intubated shortly thereafter. So February 8th of 2021 is when he actually passed away from COVID.
Sorry.
And it was a rough time, and he had been on the job 25 years, and he left behind a family. So he's got a wife and 4 kids, 2 grandkids.
Wow.
And we're coming up to that 1 year anniversary of his passing. But I've always been that person that's, it was sad at the time, but I also am thankful for the time we had with him. Mm-hmm. He was just a lifelong civil servant. He served this country, served the county, and he did a wonderful job. He just leaves behind a family that misses him every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I always take the good memories that I had with my brother, and I'm thankful that I had him in my life.
Yeah, my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So has COVID, your brother passed from COVID. Has that affected your department in any way, COVID?
I think every law enforcement agency has been affected by COVID. I mean, it's almost inevitable, just because the contact with the community at large. But we've taken a lot of safety precautions inside the city to keep officers as safe as possible. We're no different than other people. We do our very best to stay healthy, and when our employees get sick, we take care of them, make sure that they have what they need to recover, and we're managing it. We're doing the very best we can with what we have.
Yeah. All right. Good with that. You haven't instituted any mandates in the city. I know LA County's got a couple little mandates going on. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what the city does, but our city, and I'm not sure what the big city is, City of LA. I know they do have some mandates, but with regards to our city, we don't have any mandates right now. I think the way we've been able to manage the pandemic has probably been one of the reasons why. I don't want to speculate, but I would say that we've done a pretty good job managing it. And as soon as know that there was an exposure, we do our best to take action and move people around and get them isolated and get them well so that they can come back and get back to work.
No losses to COVID in your department?
No losses,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now you mentioned that your brother was with LA County and they're tan and green, and for some reason I noticed that your department, the only police department I've ever seen, at least out here in California, that's also tan and green. What's the story behind that? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so we had the tan and green since our city was incorporated, and when the police department existed, we were tan and green, and it was the LA County Sheriff's Department that copied the Southgate Police Department.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they saw us at a graduation and saw the tan and green, and I believe he transitioned the sheriff's uniform from all green to tan and green.
Okay.
So that's why we label ourselves the original tan and green.
The original tan and green, yeah.
Most of the time we get people to look at our patches and they say, oh, you look like the Sheriff's Department. I said, well, I think they might look like us.
Right.
But it's all good. I got a lot of good friends that work at the Sheriff's Department. We always talk about that story about who the original tan and green is.
So no inclination to switch to blue, or?
So we're grandfathered in. I believe we're the last municipal police department in the state of California to have tan and green. I haven't seen a municipal police department with the tan and green. I've seen other sheriff's department, but we're not going to blues. At least in my lifetime. I think the tradition speaks for itself. It's part of our identity, and I think it's really important to hold on to that identity. That's Southgate PD. I know for a short period of time we went to blues for probably 3 or 4 months, and it just didn't feel right.
Really? Just only took 3 or 4 months, huh?
It wasn't very long. Yeah, we switched back over. It wasn't by choice, but we went to blues for a little bit. A lot more sweating in the blues, but because they were just a little bit thicker. But we switched back to the tan and green. We'll be tan and green probably forever.
All right, love that tradition.
Yes.
Love that tradition. All right, cool. So Arakawa, what's the origin behind that name?
Well, my mom's Mexican and my dad's Japanese. My dad's side of the family's from Hawaii, so you'll see Arakawa pretty frequently in Honolulu.
Okay.
That's where my dad and my dad's side of the family, my grandfather, they were all born and raised in Honolulu.
All right.
And my mom is Mexican.
Mm-hmm. You ever get back to Hawaii every now and then? Or?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, that's one place I need to get to. I've never been there, but
get to Hawaii.
yeah, I need to go there. Yeah, the wife is from Costa Rica, so we go there, but I want to get to Hawaii.
No, Costa Rica is beautiful too.
So you've been there?
I've been there 3 or 4 times.
So you're a world traveler. Okay.
Yeah, I love Costa Rica.
All right. So what do you like to do when you're not working? I know you're a busy guy as a chief, but
yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity to, do things for myself. One of the stressors of the jobs is to understand how important it is to break away from that, even if it's just for a little bit, to get some stress relief and do things outside of the workplace. I have a Harley. My son has a Harley. We go to shows. We ride bikes. And then my boys keep me busy. When time comes around for sports, we're doing stuff with the sporting events, but. It seems like the weekend goes pretty quick when you got a lot of stuff going on at work. But I still like to find time to do things. Big Dodger fan. I'm a big Raider fan, so I spend time. And if I'm not at the games during the Dodger season, then I'm definitely looking at the schedule and just carving out time to watch some.
They'll be sitting at home watching my Niners tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. So next year the Raiders going to take it.
We'll see. We'll see about that, Chief. So how old are the boys?
My oldest one's going to be 27. Then I have a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. So
wow,
I got them
busy.
Yeah, I got them spread out. Yeah. They're all good. The 16-year-old's getting ready to start driving, so it's he's starting to ask. Now it's time to get a car. So I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
that's gonna be another stressful time. Yeah.
Oh
So
God.
long as he doesn't say he wants a motorcycle, though, right?
No, not a motorcycle. That's not going to happen. I had a hard enough time for the older one to take a motorcycle, but hey, if Dad's got one, then
Right.
I'd had a hard time saying that my older son can't get one. But he's enjoying riding, and he got a smaller bike now. He wants to go to a bigger bike, and it's just all about money. Whatever you want, you can have. It's just what are you willing to invest in it?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun getting out there. Do a little bit of traveling as well. I do like to follow the Dodgers when they go out of town. Try to hit at least 2 to 3 cities a year. So we'll see. We'll see what this year brings.
All right. All right. Any of the boys want to follow in Dad's footsteps? And
The oldest one has a profession already. He educated himself at Rutgers University. He's doing well in his profession. My middle one is kind of on the bubble. He's a very intelligent young man, but at that age you don't really know what
yeah,
which
he's
one.
got a ways.
Now the youngest one, the 10-year-old, he's set on going to the military and then becoming a police officer, which
There you go.
kind of surprises me.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that's interesting is I don't talk to the kids a lot about my job. I really like to keep work at home. And to be honest with you, the little one doesn't really know what police. He knows what policemen are, but I don't think he understands the profession. And I don't talk to him about. I don't tell him about the stories of that goes on at work. And so it's kind of shocking that he wants to be join the military and then become a police officer, but when he gets a little bit older, then I'll be able to have those conversations with them a little bit more comfortably and really enlighten him on what to expect. Because I have to imagine if you're a 10-year-old, 10 years of age now, we'll see what the profession looks like in 15 years.
Yeah, it's a lot different from when you and I came in
Oh,
today.
it's
So
like day and night.
yeah, like day and night.
Like day
So
and night.
you guys finding a lot of guys that are kind of leaving the profession because of the climate of today?
Well, with our organization, we're small, so you don't see that very often. People just don't leave this profession just because of frustration. At least I'm not aware of it. I have to think that probably does happen, but I haven't seen it personally.
Yeah. I haven't really seen that. I'll see the posts on social media or news reports that things like that kind of happen maybe back east or down south, but not so much out here in California.
No, I mean, despite the challenges, despite the uphill battles, the legislations that's changing, the anti-police rhetoric, the defund movement, all those things, you would think that that would push people out of the profession. It does affect, individuals because we are people and we like to think that we're doing a good job and we're in this job for, we have purpose. But we also have a strong group of individuals that do this job without expecting validation. So I think that there's a much to be said about the courage and the professionalism of the police officers that are here. Yeah, of course, we don't like to hear the negative support, but tomorrow's a new day, and we'll get along and we'll figure these things out.
Yeah.
We always do, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so a lot of this stuff came about because of what happened in 2020 with, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all those things. How do those sorts of things affect your department in your city?
Well, I think every organization is one incident away from a George Floyd incident.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in our profession, there's sometimes a broad brush that's painted, and when one incident happens, it seems to be the story for every police agency in the United States, and that's not always the case. We strongly believe that in California, in particular, we take our training serious. We look at trends, and we also look at incidents that make us better. You don't get better by doing things the right way. You get better by doing things by making mistakes.
Right.
But you have to learn from those mistakes, and you have to constantly look at how the police profession has evolved. Training changed. Legislation is forcing us to change our training. Tactics have changed. So there's a lot of different moving parts in this profession, and it's not easy, but the professionals in this organization have to figure out how to get through and navigate through the changes, and that's the best part of this profession, is because you look at an incident and we should be learning from them.
Right.
We're not perfect. We're not going to be perfect. Perfection is very rarely achieved in any part of society, let alone police work.
But it's kind of expected in our profession because, the ultimate consequence that, you and I can have on someone's life, taking someone's life and freedom, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been given a lot of tools and a lot of authority in our profession, and you're correct. We have the ability to incarcerate people, to take people's lives, and you have to get those right. You have to make sure that you're getting it right the first time. Sometimes there's irreparable harm that's committed, and we have to be better. Like I said, it's part of an evolution process, because when I look back at what we were doing when I first got here, it's like day and night. We're miles ahead of where we were, and that's part of the evolution process of getting better.
Absolutely. So what's the future hold for you, Chief?
Well, we'll see how the next few years in the LA County policing transitions. We're looking at a lot of legislative changes, but the professionals coming in don't know what we were doing 10, 15 years ago. So this is the world that they're living in. So we just got to make sure that we're watching the trends, and we're addressing the needs of the communities, making sure that we're keeping the city safe, our residents safe, our business partners safe. We have to make sure that there's a good investment in our employees. Our employees are by far the biggest asset in the organization, and we got to be a good employer. You got to take care of your employees. Mental health is important. When mental health is taken care of, then and they're working out, they're eating right, they're getting enough sleep. Those things manifest into becoming a better employee. So that's why I think it's critical that we work with our employees and ensure that they have the tools necessary to succeed in not just inside the profession, but outside the profession. I want them to have healthy relationships with their families.
And do you guys have a current program, wellness program with your officers in your department?
We do. We have a peer support group, and we're always looking at working with our psychologists to find better avenues to make sure our officers and civilian staff they're taken care of. I mean, most people don't realize how important our civilian staff is. People see the line level officers, but dispatchers and jailers and our records personnel, they're equally important in this profession. Their support is crucial to our success as an organization.
Yeah.
So for them as well.
And they're dealing with the same things that we're dealing with because they work with us day in and day out. So
Absolutely.
They see it too.
Absolutely.
All right, Chief. I appreciate you letting us up here in your beautiful home and up here in the undisclosed location up here in the hills of LA County. I really appreciate it. You enjoy this place. I mean, I'm sure you got a few more years left on the job, but when you come home, hey, you got this place to enjoy, right?
I have very little to complain about, and if I did, no one would listen.
No, not up here in this isolation. But hey, before we get out of here, I got something I want to play with you here. It's not play with you, just something I call.
Last night I saw a superhero. He was black. He said, "This is for the street. Black Lightning's back."
My Black Lightning round. I'm just going to throw some questions at you and quick fire. You throw some answers back at me, and we'll get a little bit more insight on Chief Arakawa. So you're a big Oakland Raider fan. You just got done saying that, right? So
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, now they're at the Vegas, right? So, but who's your favorite Raider of all time?
Probably Jim Plunkett.
Jim Plunkett, huh?
Yeah,
you don't
Plunkett.
hear that one much.
No, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, the Lyle Alzados of the world, Mark Allen, Bo Jackson, but just, you look at a quarterback is probably a person that can really make or break your organization.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a bad quarterback, it's like having a bad captain.
Well, no doubt.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
So what are you thinking about Derek Carr then? Is he your guy?
Derek Carr's the guy. He just needs to get some people around him, and I think this year we were able to move a little bit farther down the line. But I think Derek Carr's the guy. Look at his numbers. His numbers are good.
All right. Okay. What's your favorite assignment during your career?
Absolutely, hands down, narcotics. Working a task force and having the opportunity to work, organized crime and those types of complex investigations are hands down the most rewarding.
Yeah. I love that. I did that for a while too. Do you have a bucket list?
Definitely do some international travel.
Okay.
International travel, but that travel is going to have to be after I retire, because what I don't want to do is go and have to worry about a phone ringing.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. When's the last time you did a T-stop? Traffic stop.
Well, I didn't do it, but the other chief did it when I was riding with him. So we were. This was last year, and it just bothered him that people were just driving above their heads, and we'd be coming back from lunch, and he would just pull people over, and then I'd be like, "Okay, am I the contact officer? Or I'm the cover officer."
Right.
So, and then the chief.
Do we remember how to do this?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
He'd go. But yeah, it's. Prior to that, it's been many years. I'll leave that to the professionals.
Okay. All right. Got you. If you had to be a cop anywhere outside of California, where would that be?
Probably New York.
New York, huh?
Probably New York.
You like New York, huh? I know you said your son went to school out there. And...
Yeah, just I love that city. It's there's a lot going on. There's a lot of movement, but probably New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you talked about you got a Harley, nice Harley. I've seen it on your social. Does anybody else get to ride it?
Well, I let my son ride it, but I kind of worry. Okay, what time you taking it? What time you bringing it back?
Right.
But
what is it?
It's a deluxe.
Okay.
It's a deluxe Softail.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I've got some time into it, and my son eventually wants to get a deluxe. So take it out, test it. If you drop it, you pay for the repairs.
Right. Yeah. You ever been down on it?
No. That's my third Harley.
Knock on wood, right?
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Cheerios or cornflakes?
Cornflakes.
Cornflakes. All right. Would you rather be tased or pepper sprayed?
Pepper sprayed.
Pepper sprayed. Not doing the taser.
Not doing
the taser.
One during the test period was enough.
Yeah. No doubt. Best patrol vehicle you've ever driven?
Dodge Charger.
Dodge Charger. Okay. Now you weren't. Were you around? I'm sure you were during the Chevy Caprices.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What you think about those?
They were a little big. They were a step up from the.
Moved around a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were a step up from the Dodge Diplomat. That's for sure.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's way before my time.
Oh man, yeah. And they were ugly.
All right. Do you call people still, or do you just text them?
Text.
You're a texter?
Yeah, I'm a texter.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have gotten away from calls, and sometimes when you call them, you kind of hope they don't pick up, right?
Well, I always call my boss. I always got to call the council members, the mayor. I always have those. You don't want to lose that personal touch, but there's so much going on that you can be more efficient with text, and I think that's universal. I think people would prefer to be text than called.
Yeah, I think that's just the norm now.
Yes,
no doubt. And last but certainly not least, what's your favorite podcast?
Oh, that's got to be yours, of course.
Yeah, Black and Blue. And you heard it right here.
Black and Blue.
Yeah. All right, Chief, I appreciate you. Little words of wisdom on the way out for the audience.
Yeah, so I would expect that most of the audience are in the law enforcement profession, and I would like to say that it's still one of the greatest professions to be in. I mean, the challenges are always going to be there. I don't think the challenges now are any different than the challenges we had before. They're just different types of challenges. But this is a very noble profession. People want to be in this job, and they can't get into this job for various reasons. But stay positive. You're doing good work, and this job is not for everyone. And I think the work you're doing is commendable, and I think that after a long career, you're gonna look back and think that you won't want to change a single thing, because I know that's where I am right now. There's not a single thing that I would change in my career. I think it's just it's a story that you'll be able to tell when you're out of this profession. And I've mentioned this many times before that we're temporary stewards in the positions that we hold in this organization. We are. There were people before us. There's going to be people after us. But what's important is that you do the best job you can for your communities. Take care of yourself while you're doing it, and that's what public service is all about.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And you talked about stories, and so we'll pop up your Instagram there, at D Darakawa, right?
D Arakawa.
Yeah. So we'll pop that up there on the screen right there. And your department is pretty big on social media as well, right?
Yeah, that's. I think social media is one of the platforms that you can get your message across, and we're not any different than a lot of agencies. Some agencies have a very robust social media push: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're not quite at that level, but we're getting there, and I think we're connecting with a lot more people than we would otherwise.
All right, Chief, we expect you to get on TikTok and do some of those dances.
Man, I don't know if that's going to happen, man. Chiropractor probably won't like it.
Right? All right, Chief, I appreciate you letting us up here and spending some time with us. You take care and be safe out there.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. You got it.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for this episode of the Black and Blue Podcast. Thank you for joining us here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. My name is Dale. Till next time, we'll see you right here on Black and Blue. I'm out. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.